Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay, guys, it is Tuesday, February the 18th, and it is 10:10 p.m. Eastern Time. We are going to get into the coronavirus information and do an update with that. I just uploaded a video prior to this, so it should be available now. But let's take a look at this because there's so much happening with this. Almost every day, I think I could do a video on what is happening with this, but I think if I stick to, every other day or every third day doing an update on this, I think that will suffice for now until it ramps up more. All right, let's get into this and we'll just work our way through some of these items here. This is from the Daily Mail. World Health Organization holds secretive talks with tech giants. Sorry about all this, these advertisements. This is a site that if I don't disable my ad blocker, then I can't see the site. So, all right, Google, Facebook, and Amazon to tackle spread of misinformation on coronavirus. Now, when Google, Facebook, and Amazon say that they're going to tackle misinformation, what they're really saying is we're going to tackle the spread of truth, because they don't want any narrative out there that they can't control. So if it's not in their control, they want to suppress it. Basically, that's the truth. Twitter, YouTube, and Salesforce also met with the World Health Organization. The talks with the health body were held at the Facebook Menlo Park campus. The spread of misinformation on social media was described as an infodemic. Companies agreed to meet regularly and host a coronavirus information line. Yes, well, isn't that nice of them? Google, Facebook, Amazon, and other tech giants spent a day in a secretive talks with the World Health Organization to tackle the spread of coronavirus misinformation. Social media companies, including Twitter and YouTube, have already been working to remove posts about the virus that are proved to be fake. No, they're not removing posts that have been proven to be fake. They are removing posts that are true from people that are actually risking their lives to get it out. That's what they're removing. They don't care about misinformation or disinformation or whatever you call it. They care about the truth getting out because they want to control the narrative. The World Health Organization, WHO, has offered to work directly with the companies on fact-checking in a bid. Yeah, we know how well that goes. The Facebook fact-checkers and so forth doesn't go too well, does it? No, they're not concerned about the truth at all. So they're going to, just like the Snopes. Yeah, well, we've talked about that in the past, how absolutely inaccurate Snopes is. The World Health Organization has offered to work directly with the companies on fact-checking in a bid to speed up the process. Posts on the virus that need to be removed have ranged from those calling it a fad disease or created by the government to claims that can be treated with oregano oil. Okay, well, I can understand, if people are spreading craziness like, take a sprig of this and that and this and it'll cure you, then yes, that maybe needs to be removed. But I think that people are smart enough to make those decisions on their own, don't you think? I do. Companies at the meeting agreed to work with WHO on collaborative tools, better content, and a call center for people to call for advice. So they're even wanting to set up a call center. Now, if this was nothing that we need to be concerned about, why would they want to set up a call center? Anyway, that is what CNBC reports. The shocking rise in misinformation about the 2019 nCoV virus has been described as an infodemic by Andy Pattison from the World Health Organization. He said sites were awash with misinformation and conspiracy theories, but that big tech companies were stepping up to combat the problem. Well, I'm sure they are because, they're the ones that have to police the world now, aren't they? The meeting was organized by WHO, but was hosted by Facebook at Menlo Park campus in California. A spokesman for the social media company told CNBC. According to CNBC report, Amazon, Twilio, Dropbox, Google, Verizon, Salesforce, Twitter, YouTube, Airbnb, Kinza, and Mapbox were all at the meeting. Apple, Lyft, and Uber were invited but didn't attend, according to the report. Well, good for them. WHO shared information with the companies about its response to the virus, and attendees gave their own ideas to address the outbreak, as well as fake news stories appearing on Google and Facebook. Books and products claiming to cure the disease were shown on Amazon. Other outlandish hoaxes doing the rounds on social media include the implication the U.S. government has patented coronavirus. It is patented. So that's not an outlandish hoax. That is the truth. Fact checkers have found this to be completely untrue. No, they haven't. And the Silicon Valley tech firms are battling to stop such claims from spreading to avoid mass hysteria. Now, that is the crux of all this. They're wanting to stop mass hysteria. So they treat us like we are in kindergarten, and they have to hold our hands and say, it's okay, it's not true, it's not true. Basically. That's what they're doing. A total of 18 nations, including the U.S., Australia, Canada, and France, have confirmed cases of coronavirus. The disease is now confirmed to have infected at least 4,500 people around the world. Yeah, right. And have killed 106 in China. Okay, right, 106. Now this must be really old. This has got to be weeks old. No, it was updated the 17th of February. That was yesterday. So, yeah, I think they're real off the mark with 100. Do you really think that they're going to quarantine 700 million? That's right, 700 million people are under quarantine. Right. For 100 people dead? Yeah, okay. Well, try to tell me something else, because I don't believe that. All right, let's go back now and let's go to this. And this by Summit News. Senator Cotton, China refusing to hand over evidence about Wuhan biolab. Well, of course they are. And again, this was published yesterday. Senator Tom Cotton says that China is refusing to hand over evidence concerning the biosafety level 4 research lab in Wuhan, despite a new report from biological scientists at the South China University of Technology saying it may have been the source of the coronavirus outbreak. Well, of course it was the source. Anyway, during the appearance on Fox News, Cotton told Maria Bartiromo that new evidence confirmed the source of the virus was not the meat market in Wuhan. Here is what we know. The virus did not originate in the Wuhan animal market, said Cotton. Epidemiologists who are widely respected from China published a study in the international journal Lancet have demonstrated that several of the original cases did not have any contact with that food market. The virus went into the food market before it came out of that food market. So we don't know where it originated. We only know that only a few miles away from the market is China's only biosafety level 4 super laboratory that researches human infectious diseases. So, yeah. Cotton said that China's duplicity and dishonesty meant that questions needed to be asked about the lab, but that China right now is not giving any evidence on that question at all, and Beijing was being very secretive on what happens at the lab. Cotton also accused China of consistently blocking American scientists from traveling to Wuhan to assist in discovering the origins of the virus. A new report by scientists at the South China University of Technology in a place whose name I can't pronounce, China concluded that the killer coronavirus probably originated from a laboratory in Wuhan. One of the laboratories named in the report, which was conducting research on bat coronavirus, was located just 280 meters from the site of the Wuhan meat market. For weeks, the media has demonized anyone who suggested the lab could have been responsible for the coronavirus outbreak as a dangerous conspiracy theory peddling fake news. However, now that CNN/New York Times journalist Ezra Chung tweeted precisely that yesterday. One wonders whether they will begin to change their tune. Now, the thing is, there were 12 viruses missing, or 12 vials of deadly virus missing from the lab in Winnipeg. So, and the guy that runs that lab was found dead. Now, he had just recently had surgery on his brain, apparently to cure alcoholism, which I didn't even know that you could do that, but apparently you can. And he died when he was in, I believe, Africa. So, but apparently these 12 vials were smuggled out, and there was a big to-do, and the Chinese were fired from the lab and so forth, and taken and removed. But someone was stopped in the US, I believe it was in Massachusetts, but I could be wrong, trying to smuggle 11 vials into China. So they got 11 of the vials. So where is the last one? Where is the missing vial? Well, I believe that is the vial that ended up, starting this whole thing. That's what I believe. Now, let's go back now and get into, see what else we can get into. And this from the Daily Mail Online. Chinese media reveals head of Wuhan hospital dies of coronavirus. And we are going to go to the next item here because I've got a lot to get through. All right, we're going to go to this. All right, now this is interesting because it says dead bodies all over Wuhan, and you can see all these dead bodies. Now, somebody tried to tell me, no, those are homeless people. No, they're not, because being homeless in China is against the law, and you will be picked up and taken to a, I guess, a holding center or a camp of some sort. They don't allow homeless. So all of these people sleeping, they're saying, oh, they're just sleeping on the street with their heads covered. Most of them have their heads covered. And there is a mess of them along this road. There is nobody, but yet there's all these people lying down with sheets over them. Yeah, I would say that they're dead. Seeing as, don't you think that's the first thing that they would do in Wuhan is pick up the homeless? I mean, come on, people, think. And I'm not talking about you people. I'm talking about, some of these people that are saying, no, they're just homeless people. Anyway, like, really, some of the comments out there are so ridiculous. Not on my channel, but some of the comments, like, oh, that's not blood, it's ketchup. Oh my gosh. Some people, I don't know, they have the IQ of soap dishes. All right, let's take a look at this. I'm going to make this bigger so that you can see it here. See all these people along here, and they're covered with sheets. Now it's quite evident that they're dead, but still, people are trying to prove that they're not dead. They're just sleeping. They're homeless people. No, they're not. I know it's playing over again, but I wanted you to be. And it's probably, I know it's not the best video on earth, but these people that are getting these videos out of China are risking their very lives, because literally they are tracking these people down and arresting them. And that's the best case scenario. That's the best case scenario, is just being arrested and taken to jail. There's other things that are far worse that could happen to you. So let's leave that, since we've seen it a couple times now, and come back here. And it says a new audio recording from Wuhan received through encrypted channel. Voices are disguised. 127 bodies cremated yesterday alone, 30 times the official reported government death toll. Per orders, bodies are cremated within 1.5 hours of discovery. So I'm not going to play this audio because it's in Chinese. So someone has told us what it is. The Epoch Times has let us know what it is. And I guess, you know, I don't take any one source, but when you get a bunch of sources that are saying the same things, then you can pretty much, you know, wonder if, gee, I think this might be true. All right, now let's look at this. This is upsetting to me, and I'll tell you why. All right, these are the passengers of the Westerdam cruise ship. All right, now they were taken to Cambodia. The guy, the prime minister of Cambodia came out, shook all their hands, gave them a rose, welcomed them to Cambodia. Very, very nice. Very nice. That's wonderful. Except some of these people are infected. And now here they are being taken on city cruises. So, yeah, how dangerous is that? And of course, we can't read this because it's in a language that we don't speak, but here they are going on tours while they're showing them a good time while they're in Cambodia. And that's wonderful. That's very, very nice of the Cambodians. But these people, some of them are infected. So I don't know. What do you think of that? They're just walking around. Nobody has masks on, nothing. So what do you bet that in a little bit we'll be hearing about this being in Cambodia? Definitely. All right, let's go back. I just can't believe that. I really can't. But anyway. And let's look at this. Nearly 100 new cases found on quarantined ship. 99 new cases aboard quarantined cruise ship. Japan's health ministry says 99 more people on board the quarantined cruise ship Diamond Princess have tested positive for the new coronavirus. The ministry said on Monday that of the newly found virus carriers, 85 are passengers and 14 are crew members. The ministry also said that 19 of the infected people are in serious condition, with some of them being treated in intensive care units. The total number of infections on the ship, docked off Yokohama port near Tokyo, has risen to 454. Ministry officials say preventative measures aboard the ship may not be entirely working. Oh, really? You think? Gee. How many people were originally? 1 or 2, and now there's 454, and they say maybe preventative measures aboard the ship may not be entirely working. What was your first clue? And that they need to analyze why the virus continues to spread. The officials are continuing virus tests on passengers and crew members who remain on board. Those who test negative will be allowed to disembark from Wednesday, which again is absolutely ludicrous, because now they're saying that you can be absolutely symptom-free for, well, there was one, and I think we're gonna touch on that later. 42 days. 42 days it took to show symptoms. So these people, just because they're allowed to disembark and test negative, there's a whole lot of false negatives happening, and I just think it's extremely foolhardy. But maybe that's just me. No, I don't think so. I think that would be just about anybody with a brain. All right, let's go. Let's look at the next thing. Yeah, I put here, Cambodia gives Westerdam passengers tours instead of quarantine. I think for the sake of their own country, they should have kept these people quarantined. I know nobody would like to be quarantined. I don't want to be quarantined, but if I'm sick and I might infect others, you bet I would. All right. Now, let's take a look at this. Because we can. And we will. All right. Harvard says 60 to 89% of coronavirus cases are currently undetected in all countries outside China. So fewer than half of all coronavirus cases are likely being detected, according to a scientific paper which predicts many of those infected will not be diagnosed. And you know why they won't be diagnosed? Because right now they're just asking people, have you traveled to Wuhan? Well, and if you say no, they're not going to test you. But who knows if you've come in contact with somebody that's traveled to Wuhan? You could have. You could have gone to a movie theater and been in contact with them, or on an airplane, or at the mall. You don't know. So that's why they're not being diagnosed. That, along with the cost of the testing and the fact that there's so many false negatives. So yeah, there are probably a lot of cases that haven't been diagnosed, or they've just written it off as this person died from pneumonia, or they died from a heart attack. Two of the popular ways to go with this virus. So anyway, the paper from the Center for Communicable Diseases Dynamics at Harvard, T.H. Chan School of Public Health in Boston, said as many as 60% of COVID-19 cases around the world are likely going undetected, even in countries such as Australia that have advanced surveillance techniques. Recent work indicates variations among countries in detection capacity. The paper says, we found that the ability to detect imported cases among high surveillance countries is 40%, among intermediate surveillance countries it is 37%, and among low surveillance countries it is 11%. Undetected cases are likely in countries around the world, with greater risk in countries of low detection capacity and high connectivity to the epicenter of the outbreak. The Australian government has emphasized the success of containment of the virus in this country to an initial 15 cases, with 14 of those people who had been in Wuhan. The remaining one case was a close contact of a traveler from Wuhan. The government says travel restrictions are necessary to contain the spread of the virus, but Australian citizens are free to travel from China, while travelers are being screened if they are sick or have a fever. Surveillance methods at airports are notoriously unreliable. With the coronavirus sometimes causing very mild symptoms similar to a cold, it remains possible that the virus might have spread more widely in Australia than authorities are aware. Some scientists have used the case numbers of the virus in international travelers to estimate the size of the outbreak in Wuhan, but the Harvard Chan paper questions whether such estimates are accurate. If the true number of cases in travelers is higher than previously thought, this implies more cases in Wuhan than a larger denominator, resulting in reduced estimates of severity compared to estimates assuming perfect detection in travelers, the paper says. Further studies should account for our evolving understanding of detection capacity when estimating case numbers and severity in source population on the basis of traveler case numbers. The paper said it was possible that the virus could have spread to other countries prior to the lockdown of Wuhan. Well, and I believe it has. The scenario where the virus has been imported from Wuhan and remained undetected in various worldwide locations is a plausible one, at least until the city lockdown on January 23rd, and one might speculate that detection capacity remained limited beyond this period as travelers infected elsewhere in China continue to leave China, the paper said. Based on our model, the risk of undetected circulation correlates with both with air travel connectivity and to outbreak detection capacity, but could have happened in virtually any location worldwide, leading to the potential risk of a self-sustained transmission, which may be an early stage of a global pandemic. All right, now I happen to believe that that is the case. I do believe that it has spread other places and is not being detected or is being written off as pneumonia or whatever, because really, you know, if you go to the emergency room and you're not feeling well, they're not going to immediately jump to the conclusion that you have coronavirus, even though you may have. So yeah, because they're going to say, well, have you traveled to China? No. Have you been around anyone? Have you had contact to anybody that has traveled to China? Well, really, how would you know? I mean, you may not, what do they call contact? I mean, you go to the grocery store, there's people that may have traveled there, to the movies, to dinner, to wherever, to the mall. You don't know. But you would answer no because you think, well, I haven't had any close contact with anyone from Wuhan. No. So then they don't test you. And then your pneumonia gets worse and you die. Well, what are they going to do? Are they going to test you then? Probably not. So I don't know. I'm hearing a lot of things from people that work in medical centers that are saying that there's people coming in with very severe pneumonia. So I don't know. I don't know. And maybe, I'm sure some of you are doctors or nurses or healthcare practitioners, and you would know far more than I. So please put it in the comments below if you have any additional information on that. And just one moment here, just so that I won't cough. All right, let's go on to the next item. All right, WHO expert team visits China for COVID-19 control. A World Health Organization expert team, including American experts, has arrived in Beijing and will visit South China's Guangdong province and Southwest China's Sichuan province to research China's prevention and control work on the novel coronavirus. You know what? I'm going to leave this because, yeah, there's more important things to get to, and I don't have time to read everything because I've got way too much stuff here. Okay, and let's look at this. We're not going to read all this, but I think it's important for us to know that, hang on here, coronavirus, Heathrow Hotel closed to public and guests.
Anywhere you go in New Zealand, any direction, hanging out on the beach, at the gym or a cafe, everyone's friendly. Kia ora, g'day, how you doing? It's the old, it's like a village. We get along with everyone.
You know what? I'm not playing that because that irritates me. And I don't want to listen to that. But anyway, they have closed an airport close to Heathrow for quarantine. Now, obviously, if they have done that, they must have people to quarantine, right? Makes sense. Makes sense to me. All right. Why Americans are under impression or delusion that the U.S. government banned Chinese flights. Every day, hundreds of people from China get on an airplane and land in the U.S. They go through no medical screening, no quarantine. This is not a conspiracy theory or a secret. Just go search any flight database you want. Nor is it a secret that these people don't go through any medical screening or quarantine. They just don't. There are hundreds of people on the internet explaining how they arrived in the U.S. from China and walked out of the airport like nothing has happened. Yet, every day I see people saying they banned flights from China, blah, blah, etc. Why are Americans under the impression or delusion that their government has banned Chinese flights, or are they putting arrivals under medical test or quarantine? And they're not. They're not. And I had wondered that myself because different people were bringing it up. Like, well, here's a flight from China. Well, here's a flight from China. So, no, not all flights have stopped from China. And no, they're not all going through screening either, because I know I had heard people saying like, well, gee, I just arrived from such and such a place and they didn't even ask me any questions or anything. They just let me off the airplane. I don't know. All right, let's look at this. Chinese activist detained after calling Xi Jinping clueless on coronavirus crisis. Detention of prominent scholar Xu Jingyong comes amid wider crackdown on freedom of speech. Well, first of all, there is no freedom of speech there, so yeah. The Chinese authorities have detained a prominent activist and legal scholar who issued a blistering attack on President Xi Jinping for mishandling the coronavirus crisis amid a nationwide crackdown on speech freedom. Xu Zhejiang, a former law lecturer and founder of the social campaign New Citizens Movement, was taken away by police on Saturday evening while he was seeking refuge at the home of a lawyer in the southern city of Guangzhou. Activists Yi Du and Hua Zi said his host, Yang Bin, her husband and son were also taken away for hiding criminals, but were released after 24 hours, they said. Yang has reportedly posted comments online demanding officials be held responsible for the whistleblower Dr. Li Wenliang, who died this month. A staff member who answered the phone at the Shilao Township Public Security Bureau in Guangzhou refused to comment. Xu published an essay earlier this month which called on China's president to resign for his lack of ability to govern China, citing the coronavirus crisis and the mishandling of the Hong Kong pro-democracy protests, a dangerous move that guarantees official anger. Oops, what happened here? You didn't authorize the truth to be released, and the outbreak turned into a national disaster, Xu wrote. Whenever you face looming crisis, you're clueless, Xu wrote. I don't think you're an evil man. You're just not wise. Mr. Xi Jinping, please step down. Facing criticism over Beijing's handling of the outbreak, Xi said in a speech reported by state media on Saturday evening that he has given instructions on fighting the disease as early as 7th of January. The admission has fueled questions over why the potential dangers of the virus were not conveyed fully to the public at an earlier date. Good question. Xi's friend said that he had been on the run since December after the authorities cracked down on secret meeting attended by more than 20 rights lawyers and activists in the southeastern city of Xiamen in Fujian province. More than 10 participants have been summoned or detained, mostly on subversion charges since. Xi's detention is likely to end in a lengthy jail term because he has previously been jailed, and the authorities tend to punish repeated offenders harshly. We're very pessimistic. It certainly won't be a light sentence in view of the current situation, his friend and fellow activist Hua Zi said. Xi's detention came amid a nationwide crackdown of freedom of speech amid the coronavirus crisis. The death of whistleblower Dr. Li Wenliang, who was sentenced by police after warning colleagues about the coronavirus, sparked public outrage. Law professor Xu Zhangguan also published a public critique of Xi, was placed under house arrest for days and now barred from the internet. At least 2 citizen journalists are reportedly detained. Activists say the authorities are using the coronavirus epidemic as an opportunity to intensify their crackdown on dissent. Now, I have no problems believing that at all. Whenever there's a political challenge, they would step up suppression, said Dr. Tang Biao, Xi's longtime fellow activist. Xu started his activism in 2003 when he and fellow PhD graduates Tang and another friend urged the national legislature to scrap rules on detaining and repatriating migrants. A champion for social equality and the rule of law as part of his New Citizens Movement, he was jailed in January 2014 for 4 years after writing an open letter critical of Xi and for staging protests for equal rights for migrant children and official transparency over private assets. So yeah, this is what's happening there. There is a crackdown on political dissidents, and a political dissident is anyone that does not agree with Xi Jinping, and that is happening now. And I mean, there's never been free speech there, but now with this, they have really, really cracked down, and people are literally risking their lives in getting any information out. So, especially if it's information that is not officially the Communist Party line. So, let's go back now and let's go on. All right, let's take a look at this. As Wuhan's desperate and sick beg for help, China shuts them down. This is by Anonymous. Doctors are told not to cause alarm over coronavirus social media posts. Over coronavirus, social media posts are deleted and vital information is dismissed as rumor. The author is a Chinese writer living in North America, and that is why he's going by the name Anonymous, because I'm sure he knows what can happen. I got a phone call from Dr. Song one night. He had just finished a shift at a hospital in Wuhan and was about to go back to work again. He told me it had been weeks since he had a full night's sleep or a day off. He couldn't remember the last time he had spent time with his family or eaten a warm meal. At work, he wraps himself in raincoats due to a lack of protective gear across the hospital. Some of his colleagues wear diapers to avoid having to remove their protective suits. Maybe you can write something to let the patients know we have all tried our best, he said. Just a few hours before, when a patient had died at a Wuhan hospital, family members had beaten up and severely injured two doctors. Even though he and his co-workers were working non-stop, overwhelmed, under-equipped, and exhausted, they still faced a backlash from patients, many of whom he had to eject due to the lack of hospital beds. Some left disappointedly, others abused him. I got to know Song when I was helping a medical supplies donation group. He was not the only one pleading for help via social media. I was contacted by dozens of medical workers who all described a desperate situation. I also received a lot of pleas for help from patients. They had all been waiting in packed hospital lobbies for days in fear of being left untested, untreated, and ultimately dying from what is now officially called COVID-19. Some people had felt ill for almost a week, and in that time their family members had started to feel ill as well, but they had a long wait to be diagnosed and treated. Lynn, a college student, started to feel lightheaded and thought she had a cold at the time. There was still no official information about the coronavirus outbreak, but her condition deteriorated drastically. The ban on local transport meant that she and her mother had to walk for hours to get to the hospital. She waited in the lobby for an entire night, then was given some medicine and advised to come back the next day in case there were coronavirus testing kits available. She was diagnosed at the end of January. So was her mother, who was infected while taking care of her. They were told again and again to remain confined at home and wait to be taken to the hospital. As time went by, her messages seemed more and more depressed. One night, she told me that she felt like she was waiting to die. The last time we spoke, she was back at the hospital, waiting again. If there is only one bed, I will let my mother take it. Her health is declining rapidly. I will quarantine myself at home. She couldn't stop crying. Lynn is not alone. On Weibo, one of the biggest social media platforms in China, there is a group of more than 150,000 people, mostly patients and their families, asking for help. Reading through the posts, it's clear there's a shortage of everything. Many people have to decide whether to prioritize their mother or daughter or grandson or grandfather, wife or husband. Knowing how both medical workers and patients are struggling, I couldn't stop thinking about what caused all these tragedies in a country that could have learned a lot from its SARS outbreak 17 years ago. According to the Financial Times, there was at least a 3-week period when Wuhan authorities were aware the virus was spreading, but issued orders to suppress the news. In early January, 8 medical professionals were reprimanded by the police for rumor mongering, including Dr. Li Wenliang, the whistleblower who died from the disease, who has become a symbol of public frustration over the Chinese government's censorship and poor management. These rumors were actually based on infection cases in hospitals in Wuhan, and if the government had instead put its energy into investigating these cases, then lives could have been saved. In mid-January, a nurse told me that medical workers in Wuhan had been advised to not wear protective gear to avoid causing panic. Later, Song told me that medical workers had been advised not to appeal for help on public media outlets. Now, 1,700 medical workers nationwide have been infected. Even now, when the virus has made 70,000 people sick and taken more than 1,700 lives, a lot more than that, the government is still trying to hide information. Thousands of posts were deleted from the online group asking for help, including Lynn's. I was told by editors of Chinese media outlets that I couldn't write about anything that reflected negatively on the government. If it is not new for figures in government to put their political interests ahead of public health, but given the rapid spread of the virus and the gravity of the situation in China, I thought the government could put aside the censorship and propaganda for a while. I was wrong. Dr. Song and Lin are pseudonyms. The author is a Chinese writer living in North America. All right, and let's go on. And I think we've already touched on this. So, all right, let's look at this. I doubt I'm going to get through all of this tonight, but I'm going to try and get through as much as I can. I'm a fan of face masks. Los Alamos expert models suggest the outbreak should be exploding quite quickly in China. All right. And it says at least 550,000 cases, maybe 4.4 million or something in between. Like weather forecasters, researchers who use mathematical equations to project how bad a disease outbreak might become are used to uncertainties and incomplete data. And COVID-19, the disease caused by the new to humans coronavirus that began circulating in Wuhan, China late last year, has those everywhere you look. That can make the mathematical models of outbreak with their wide range of forecasts seem like guesswork gussied up with differential equations. The 8-fold difference in projected COVID-19 cases in Wuhan, calculated by a team from the US and Canada, isn't unusual for the early weeks of an outbreak of a never-before-seen illness. But infectious disease models have been approximating reality better and better in recent years, thanks to a better understanding of everything from how germs behave to how much time people spend on buses. Year by year, there have been improvements in forecasting models and the way they are combined to provide forecasts, say physicist Alexandro Vespignani of Northeastern University, a leading infectious disease modeler. That's not to say there's no room for improvement. The key variables of most models are mostly the same ones epidemiologists have used for decades to predict the course of outbreaks, but with greater computer power now at their disposal, modelers are incorporating more fine-grained data to better reflect the reality of how people live their lives and interact in the modern world, from commuting to work to jetting around the world. These more detailed models can take weeks to spit out their conclusions, but they better inform public health officials on the likely impact of disease control measures. Models are not intended to be scare machines, projecting worst-case possibilities. Modelers prefer project to predict, to indicate that the outcomes they describe are predicated on numerous assumptions. The idea is to calculate numerous what-ifs. What if schools and workplaces closed? What if public transit stopped? What if there was a 90% effective vaccine and half the population received it in a month? So our overarching goal is to minimize the spread and burden of infectious disease, said Sarah Del Val, an applied mathematician and disease modeler at Los Alamos National Laboratory, by calculating the effects of countermeasures such as social isolation, travel bans, vaccination, and using face masks. Modelers can understand what's going on and inform policymakers, she said. For instance, although many face masks are too porous to keep viral particles out or in, their message of possible contagion here keeps people away from you and reduces disease spread, Del Val said. I'm a fan of face masks. The clearest sign of the progress in modeling comes from flu forecasts in the US. Okay, I want to get to the crux here. So the COVID-19 outbreak in China is quickly spreading worldwide, sparking quick calculation on how deadly this new disease is. One measure is called a case fatality rate. While the formula is simple, it's difficult to get a precise answer. The computers that run disease models grind through calculations that reflect researchers' best estimates of factors that two Scottish researchers identified a century ago as shaping the course of an outbreak: how many people are susceptible, how many people are infectious, and how many are recovered or dead and presumably immune. That sounds simple, but errors in those estimates can send a model wildly off course. in the autumn of 2014, modelers at CDC projected that the Ebola outbreak in West Africa could reach 550,000 to 1.4 million cases in Liberia and Sierra Leone by late January if nothing changed. As it happened, heroic efforts to isolate patients, trace contacts, and stop unsafe burial practices kept the number of cases to 28,600 and 11,325 deaths. To calculate how people move from susceptible to infectious to recovered, modelers write equations that include such factors as number of secondary infections each infected person typically causes and how long it takes when one person gets sick to when the people she infects does. These two numbers define the growth rate of an epidemic. The first number is called the basic reproduction number, written R0. It varies by virus. So when the R0 of COVID-19 was estimated several weeks ago to be above 2, social media exploded with pandemic is coming hysteria. But while important, worshiping at the shrine of R0 belies the complexity that two different pathogens can exhibit when they have the same R0. The Canadian-US team argues in a paper posted to the preprint site MedRxiv, said the senior author and Anton Allard of Laval University in Quebec, the relation between R0, the risk. Okay, this is not exactly what I was wanting to get to. And this is very long. So where is the crux of this? All right. In a more recent model run, Jonathan Reed of England's University of Lancaster and his colleagues estimated that only 1 in 20 infections were being detected in late January, Reed said. There were probably 11,090 to 33,490 infections in Wuhan as of January 22nd, when China reported 547 cases. It highlights how difficult it is to track down and identify this virus, Reed said, especially with residents of quarantined Wuhan being turned away from overwhelmed hospitals and clinics without being tested for the virus. Using a similar approach, modelers led by Dr. Wei Kit-ming of Jinan University in Guangzhou estimated that through January 31st, China probably had 88,000 cases, not the 11,200 reported. Reed's group is updating its model to estimate the fraction of true cases in February. China's cumulative cases topped 60,000 on Thursday. Well, it's a lot more than that. This is not exactly what I thought it was. And let's move on now and find... So we've already covered this as well about, well, there's now 19 more cases aboard the Diamond Princess. So that is old news. It seems to be worse every day. Okay, hang on here. All right, let's look at this. Okay, Washington State. This is not Washington, D.C., Washington State, monitoring 712 people for coronavirus symptoms. 712 people. All right, we're going to go back now. And, man, I got a lot of stuff here. And construction has started on the largest cabin hospital for Wuhan City, 3,000 beds to be completed next Tuesday. So not only have they, transformed schools into quarantine centers and so forth, but now they're building another 3,000 bed hospital due to be finished next Tuesday. So let me see what else we have here. And this is a very similar video to what we saw with, no, this is a different video. I'm sorry. Yet another video smuggled out of China showing approximately 25-year-old Chinese police officer spontaneously dying from rapid onset COVID-19 heart failure due to cytokine swarms. I'm telling you guys repeatedly, none of the heart attacks are reported. Death toll 100,000 plus. All right, so let's look at this guy. I think it's this guy that falls. Now, from my understanding and what I've read, if you have coronavirus and you recover from it, you're one of the lucky ones and recover, you can be reinfected. And the second time is when if you get it the second time, that causes a heart attack, because the virus weakens your heart, and so then when you get it again or you're reinfected, your heart can't take it and you just have a massive heart attack. And these are the people that we see just dropping dead in the streets. They are dying of heart attacks and they are not reported. All right, now let's go back. And coronavirus is 20 times more likely than SARS to bind to human cells. That's not good at all. SARS was that was very serious. Coronavirus up to 20 times more likely than SARS to bind to human cells, study suggests. New strains appear to be more readily transmitted from human to human than SARS, Texas researchers find. Further studies needed to explore human host cells' role in spread between people, the report says. So it spreads much, much easier. It's much more easier to transmit human to human, and it is seems more with 20 times more likely than SARS to bind to human cells. So yeah, that's not a good finding at all. Not encouraging. All right. Let's take a look at this. I know we're not going to get through all this, but okay. I believe pandemic is here, but not being officially announced due to limiting panic and keeping the economy afloat. Basically, what this all boils down to is that federal officials, CDC officials, WHO officials, Chinese officials all know this thing cannot be stopped. It's out of the bag. We had a window and we failed to contain it. Blame and point fingers all you want, but it doesn't matter. What does this mean? We are now entering a pandemic. It's here. The world is not ending, but the virus has certainly spread to other countries, continents, cruise ships, taxi drivers. They can't trace it anymore. It's over. Now the problem is the world is now an internationally connected economy, and the people in charge, the people running the show, have two paths they can take. One, announce the pandemic. Tell everyone to prepare. This will cause the economy to shut down. People will buy up all supplies from local stores, quit going to work for fear of getting sick. Supply chains will come to a crashing halt. This will make the 2008 financial crisis look like child's play. Or two, let life go on. Assuming it's too late to do anything, except get sick, recover, get past it, cut your elderly losses, try to create a vaccine and downplay it until the last possible moment when cases are too hard to ignore, springing up in every corner of the globe, let alone UK, America, or Japan. They have chosen option 2. Limit the spread, limit panic, downplay the information. China limiting other nations and WHO to enter ground zero certainly doesn't help. We will get past this, but it's going to be a bumpy ride. The media hyped up Ebola, media hyped up SARS, media hyped up swine flu, but somehow we've been noticeably quiet and trying to pretend this isn't happening. Pay attention to what they don't say rather than what they do. They have chosen to focus their efforts on vaccines and slowing the spread as well as panic. If the economy crashes, we will have much larger problems than just a virus. The world has been at relative peace for the last 80 years, and we're overdue for nature's forces to F it all up. It's a pandemic, but we can't call it that yet. To limit panic. Got it? Now, this is CNN in the Philippines. That is what they're saying. It's a pandemic, but we can't call it that yet to limit panic. Got it? There's literally no upside to announcing a pandemic, as the mass populace has been conditioned to perceive that word extremely negatively and are very fearful. Spreading fear helps no one. So even if it is a pandemic, until it hits many third world countries, leaders will not announce it. It's all interconnected. Now, that is what I happen to believe. I happen to believe that they are choosing to limit this because they know that once they announce it and they say, well, it's here, the economy's going to tank, and that would help no one. So I think that it's up to us to keep informed about what is going on and to prepare and to do our best, because there's always going to be people that won't believe and will say, nah, it's nothing. They're just hyping this. Well, actually, they're not hyping it at all. And that should be a bigger concern. So there you go. Now, let's go back, see if there's anything else we can, let's look at this. I don't remember what this is, but probably something good. Okay, it says some people are carriers. They never become ill, but can infect thousands. Get the truth. So it says such a long incubation period would undoubtedly present a larger challenge to the whole public health effort. Chinese media reported a patient was diagnosed with coronavirus 42 days after returning home from Wuhan. So yeah, this is, and I'm not gonna belabor this and get into all this because we've got too much to cover here, and I want to try and cover as much as possible, because you know what? In a couple days, I'll have this much more again, because there's just a lot of news about this if you're looking in the right places. But don't look on CNN or any of the New York Times, places like that. They're just going to give you the narrative that they want to give you, and not the narrative that is the truth. All right, let's take a look at this now. All right, if the situation in Wuhan is not resolved, the situation in Hubei cannot be resolved. If the situation in Hubei is not resolved, the situation in China cannot be resolved. Press conference by Zhong Nanshan in Guangdong, China on February 18th, 2020. Zhong Nanshan is a Chinese epidemiologist and pulmonologist who discovered the SARS coronavirus. Do you know what? I think I've covered this before. So I think I'm going to skip this, because I know as soon as I started reading that, I know I've read this before. So let's skip that for now, because I've done, I don't know, I think this is the third or fourth video that I've done about the coronavirus. So let's go back and let's take a look at this. Okay. Coronavirus, the outlook has worsened. With better data, the range of outcomes have narrowed, and the likelihood of this blowing over seems small. Last week, I wrote that there was not a lot of hard facts to go on when trying to estimate the likely outcome of the novel coronavirus outbreak. Firstly, because there was simply not a lot of data available, but also, as I said last week, the numbers from China are inherently unreliable. Let's not forget that China deliberately drove sick SARS patients around in ambulances to hide them from the World Health Organization back in 2003. In the past week, the case against trusting China's data has strengthened considerably. Barron's reported that an analysis of the variance in China's data showed it was too perfect to be real data. A statistical analysis of China's coronavirus casualty data shows a near perfect prediction model that data analysis say isn't likely to naturally occur, casting doubt over the reliability of the numbers being reported to the World Health Organization. And of course, we know that the numbers are fake, because everything that's coming out of China, people risking their lives getting information out of China, we know that there are many, many more people that have died from this than they are telling us. Additionally, CNBC reports that high-placed administration officials have stated that the U.S. does not have high confidence in China's coronavirus figures, so while the numbers coming out of China have seemingly improved, it is crucial to watch what the Chinese government does and to keep a careful eye on the data from outside mainland China. Lockdowns in China. In China, more and more of the country is in quarantine. The New York Times reported that as of February 15th, it was estimated that some 760 million people in China are under some form of lockdown. 760 million people. That's upwards of 1 billion people. Like, that's 1 in every 10 people in this world is under quarantine. Think about that. I mean, just think about that. 1 in 10 people in this world is under quarantine right now. Wow. So, I mean, that's more than the population of North America, of Canada and the United States. I mean, it's almost double that. So in China, more and more of the country is in quarantine. Okay, I just read that. Check out the excellent map below, which is the best visualization I've seen of the extent of the lockdowns in China. And I guess areas in red under some form of lockdown. So I guess it doesn't look like it's as big as it is, but you've got to realize these are densely packed areas. I mean, Wuhan is a city of 11 million people. So, given the spread to countries around the globe, we can now make some important characterizations of the virus without relying on China's data. One of the most frequent factors of the epidemic is determining the case fatality ratio, CFR. We now have enough cases from outside mainland China that we can estimate the CFR independently. This has the added benefit that it includes a significant amount of asymptomatic cases, which would be difficult to detect within China. There are various statistical methods of calculating CFR during an ongoing epidemic. Here I use the equation, and I don't even have a hope of understanding that equation. So what is it saying here? As of writing this, there have been 5 deaths outside of mainland China and 135 recovered patients. This gives us a CFR of 3.70, 3.40 to 4.01. And confidence interval or margin of error calculated by, okay, I don't understand all these equations, but so the R naught value of the virus is 3.66. The estimate is the weighted average from all published studies I've been able to find with studies whose calculations based on newer data weighted slightly more. The average R naught value is the average R naught value of the studies below, with each study weighted to, okay, so I don't understand how they come up with these numbers. I really don't, and I don't really want to know, because I'm an English major, not a mathematician, not even close to a mathematician. But anyway, so there you go. So scenarios. In my initial analysis of the COVID-19 outbreak, then coronavirus, I outlined 4 different scenarios for the outbreak. After some thought, I've expanded the possible scenarios to 6. The optimistic scenario, the CFR of the virus will be perhaps 0.5 or below, but the spread of the virus outside, well, it's already above that, so deadly but containable. In this scenario, the virus would have a CFR, say, above 3%, but containment measures are able to slow the spread of the virus, and the R naught drops to 1 or below. Okay, well, we're past that. Pandemic with low CFR, well, we're past that too, because the CFR has been calculated to be higher, and so has the R naught value. So, case 4, pandemic with moderate CFR, but we're past that because the CFR is above 2%. So, isn't that what they set up here? Where did they say the R naught is? Yeah, it's 3.66 is the R naught, and the CFR is, now I can't find the CFR. Oh, well, I think it was more than 2, I know that. So, where are we here? Pandemic with high CFR. Okay, so I would think that that's where we're at. In the case 5 scenario, the virus is not contained in China, and it ends up having a CFR between 4.5 and 8%. This wouldn't be quite as bad as the 1918 Spanish flu, but would probably have an enormous economic impact, particularly given the globalization of the economy. Look for draconian quarantine measures to be put into place around the world. And that is exactly what we're seeing right now. And case 6 would be the big one. In worst case scenario, the virus is not contained in China and it ends up having a CFR or somewhere above 8. Maybe the fatality rate is slightly worse than we hope, and healthcare systems become overwhelmed, causing the mortality rate to rise substantially. In that case, this is the big one. Based on the current estimations, we appear to be on track for scenario 4. Obviously, more data and containment measures should show that the virus and not that severe, although arguably overwhelmed healthcare systems could easily push the world into case 5. Now, I don't know. I just don't know, because there's so much conflicting data out there that it's hard to say. Now, I was told by somebody that they're a pretty good source of information, and not generally wrong, that there are in fact 2 viruses that they are calling coronavirus, when really it is actually 2. There is one that is a more natural, and then one that was lab created. Now, whether that's true, I don't know, but that is what I'm hearing. So again, I will stay on top of that and see if I could find out more information. My gosh, I'm yawning and it's 11:16. How long have I been doing this video for? It's too long. It's way too long. So I think I'm going to leave it there. There's a ton of this information out there, and you do have to kind of dig for it, because they're not making this stuff readily available. And of course, the stuff that is getting into the news is not correct, because, you know, it conflicts with the stories that we're hearing right straight out of Japan by people that are actually there and experiencing it. And what possible reason would they have to lie? There'd be no reason for them to lie, because the Communist Party is trying to shut it down. They're trying to keep this under wraps. So why would people risk their lives to tell a lie? That doesn't even make sense. So yeah, I think that those are the reports that we can trust, and we know that there is a lot going on that cannot be explained. In fact, I saw some videos that were absolutely horrific tonight. Horrific. And I don't even know whether to pass it along, because I don't know what was happening in the video, but I'm not even going to mention what it is right now until I've been able to check it out further. But that is it for tonight. I think I'm going to leave it there, because I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's a lot of stuff concerning this, and it's all good stuff. It's all stuff that we need to know, but the situation's so fluid and it's changing so rapidly that it's hard to keep up with it. So I will stay on top of this and I will keep you updated, but tomorrow's probably going to be a news information for mainly US news. All right. So thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it very, very much. And I will see you in the next video. All right. Well, you guys have a great evening. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking the truth. Absolutely.